In today's episode of The Coping Hour, we address the college football playoff drama. We talk a little bit about the lawlessness that is the transfer portal and the NIL in college, and it finally happens. We talk about heat culture. Stick around. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 6th of December, year of our Lord 2023. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, a broadcast hosted by Motown Noah. I got to tell you guys something. I got to let you in on a little inside baseball, a little bit of a secret. I was on the phone with my mom yesterday, and right before we get off the phone, she goes, wait, can I ask you something? And I was like, yeah. She goes, why do you say year of our Lord? And I was like, you know, Mom, it's funny. It's a funny story because you raise a really interesting question. And I'm sure some of you maybe out there have wondered the same thing, because everything that I say in the following 45 minutes after declaring it the year of our Lord is quite antithetical to what that proverbial Lord would want me to say. So why do I say a year of our Lord? I don't have a reason. It was literally because when I started my first solo pod, like at this point, 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, it was either 2018 or 2019, which was called Shoot the J, which actually does still exist on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you look up like Shoot the J, I don't know if it's under Motown Noah or Nicholas Hinkle, but it's there. I felt like, as somebody who grew up watching broadcasters, watching comedians, and like understanding the cadence of how this formula works, you know, they all have like that thing. They all have their thing when they, mainly broadcasters, when they introduce something, right? Like Brent Musburger is a good example. You are looking live. And the story behind that was because he was actually saying that in order to but in order to declare that, like, hey, if you're betting on this game, all the money needs to be in because the game is starting right now. You are looking live. The bets are off, right? And so as like a 19-year-old kid, I was just kind of like, I need to have a thing. And I've said before, the only thing that I ever plan with these shows is the intro, and everything else just kind of, I just dome it, right? And so I just kind of started saying it, and I'm not religious at all, but it flows really well, and that is just kind of how the intro has always been. But boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, have I been excited to get back, you know, in front of a camera, behind a microphone, to get these takes off. I have been bursting at the seams while I was on vacation, which was beautiful, by the way. I think Monday's show is when, at the end of Monday's show is maybe when I'll do like a travel recap, because I have some stuff that I want to try and throw together so that I can sort of take you guys through what the journey was. So TBD on that. I don't know if I'll do it at all. If you guys are interested, I'll of course do it, but not throwing it in this one. And I should also say, I don't know if you can tell how excited I am that I'm uploading the quote-unquote Friday episode 2 days early. We're uploading this on Wednesday. And so this is just going to be the episode for the week, and then next week we'll go back to the normal Friday. The normal Monday and Friday. But there is nothing in this world that bothers me more than missing the boat. As a content creator, as somebody who talks into a microphone for a career, when you miss a time frame, like when you those windows can be really small to get takes off. And when something really crucial happens, like what happened with the college football playoff this past weekend, not having the space or the opportunity to get these fucking takes off can be agonizing. Because what ends up happening is, you know, you guys go and consume whatever podcast it is that you listen to, right? And if you care about college football, you've already seen the takes that I'm about to give. So now I have to try to zag as hard as I possibly can in order to deliver the take that you haven't heard yet, right? And what ends up happening with that is you say something fucking insane that you don't even believe because you're trying to like go for this shock factor, right? And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to break this down in the way that my brain thought about it in real time. And some of this, you know, I'm sure you've heard other people say, but I really want to get into this. So over the weekend, we had a fantastic slate of conference championship games in college football. I wasn't able to watch many of them. I was able to catch a little bit of Oregon and Washington, But other than that, like, I was on vacation, dude. I was in Puerto Rico. Like, I wasn't going to spend time watching football, right? With all due respect to the sport. Which is ironic that I say that, because you know who might not respect the sport is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. And let's talk about why. They went with Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama. It makes sense, right? On the surface, it makes sense. Alabama won their conference. Texas won their conference. Washington won their conference. And what's that? Michigan at number 1? Yeah, they won their conference too. Texas, Alabama head-to-head. Texas beat Alabama. So who was on the outside looking in? You had Florida State. You had a team that went 13-0, a Power 5 conference team, with 2 SEC victories under their belt, one against LSU and one against Florida in the last game of the year before the conference championship game. And the take here is that, so none of these games mattered. If I'm a Florida State fan, if I'm an administrator at the school, if I'm like a broadcast partner where all of this money is getting shoveled around and funneled into these different channels, what was it all for? If playing the games matters, and I'm Florida State and I played all 13 games and I fucked around and won all 13 of them, why do I? And by the way, I was in, before this like penultimate ranking, I was in the top 4 essentially all season. Like, even with the AP Top 25 before the College Football Playoff rankings came out, like, Florida State was up there the entire season. So what changed? What was the thing that changed? Jordan Travis got hurt. Your school's record, like all-time record-breaking quarterback, his leg shattered, right? And there are a few ways to look at this. One, Florida State got hosed because they won all their games. They played who was in front of them. They won every single time. And the result of that was that they got left out. Maybe this is a zag. And while I empathize with Florida State fans, and I can't imagine how bad this sucks right now, I think we just need to kind of be a little bit for real about this. And I'm not trying to shit on the school because, like, whatever. But I look at the college football playoff and how it has been as a product for the last, 8 years that we've been doing this, give or take, right? And I see that the average margin of victory in these games has been 19 points. My Michigan State Spartans certainly did not help contributing to that when they lost 38-0 to the eventual champion Alabama Crimson Tide, right? A team that, by the way, is kind of similar to the Alabama team that they have right now. Like, are you taking Jake Coker as your quarterback or Jalen Milroe? Probably Jalen Milroe, right? Because Jake Coker was just going to game manage. Jalen Milroe is going to break off like 2 or 3 20-yard plays. And you're going to be like, fuck, that was electric. That was so fun. But I digress. Anyways. I'm kind of thinking to myself, this Florida State team, while they did win, the 2.5 games that they played without Jordan Travis, they still won those games. They were going to get fucking killed against whoever they played. I don't care how good the defense may have been. I don't care how good, like, Keon Coleman is when he gets out in space, right? And again, as a Michigan State fan, I know how good he can be. And for Florida State this year, I'd argue he's been better than he ever was for Michigan State because he actually had a guy who could throw him the ball, right? That's why he transferred in the first place, was because Peyton Thorne was his quarterback, and he's like, I literally just can't get the ball. There was a rumor out there that when Jaden Reed went into the draft, he gets drafted, in the second round by the Packers. There was a rumor that if only he had a better quarterback throwing him the ball, he would have gone higher. There was that stretch in the late first round of this last NFL draft where there was like 3 receivers taken in a row, in that Quentin Johnston stretch. Jaden Reed should have been in there, right? If only he had the right quarterback. And Keon Coleman saw that and was like, I'm out of here. And then Peyton Thorne also transferred, but whatever, right? And so I'm thinking of it through the lens of that Florida State was probably going to get demolished. But if I can if I can double zag on myself here, well, isn't that what we love, though? Aren't those the stories that we love? Wasn't it the first college football playoff that Ohio State starts the season with Braxton Miller, and then he blows his knee out, and they have to ride out the season with J.T. Barrett? Who the hell is this guy? Who's J.T. Barrett? By the end of the season, you knew who J.T. Barrett was. And it was the Michigan game, right? Done. J.T. Barrett, done. Now they go to their third string quarterback, Cardale Jones. Cardale Jones comes in, 12 gauge, wins the rest of the Michigan game, goes on to Indy. I don't remember who they played, probably like Wisconsin or something. They win the Big Ten. He goes to the playoff. They beat Alabama. And then who are they playing in the Natty? They win the national championship game. Okay? That story is incredible. We still love to talk about the odds that I don't care if it was Ohio State and like it's really easy for them to go next man up as opposed to a team like Florida State where even though we like to believe that Florida State is a blue blood, I've just never really, I don't know, whatever, right? It's just not the same thing. So my question is like, what happened to that? What happened to like, we love these underdog stories where, hey man, anything can happen in these games. Like literally anything can happen. Maybe Florida State's back. I'm assuming his concussion would have been fine by the time the playoff rolled around anyways, right? Maybe he comes out and he's electric. I don't know. Like maybe something weird happens and that's what creates these 30 for 30s, right? It goes back into the economy if you're ESPN, because if Florida State gets into this playoff and they're playing on ABC on like New Year's Eve and they fuck around and they win the game, right? Even if they lose in the Natty, that's a 30 for 30. That's something there. That's a documentary. And then ESPN is bringing in more dollars, right? More bucks. I really think you can look at it both ways. Ultimately, I do err on the side of like, I think the committee did the right thing because all of us, whether you want to admit this or not, because I think both things can be true, that Florida State got hosed. They should probably be in the college football playoff. But if I can also, can I triple zag? Can I do the and this is kind of unfounded, but I'm going to triple zag. What if the NFL could do this? What if like a year ago, when the Lions finished the season like 7-2 on this ridiculous hot streak and they still miss out on the playoffs, right? What if the NFL could be like, no, we're going to kick out, like, I don't know, Seattle, right? And we're going to give it to Detroit instead because we like what Detroit has done to close out the season a hell of a lot more than what Seattle has done. Does Detroit still lose in the first round? Maybe. Does it end up being a better game? I don't know. But if they could do that, that would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny if they could do that. But the truth here is that last year, when it was Michigan. This is so embarrassing that I can't remember who was playing in the playoff. But the games were better. It was Clemson and Ohio State and Michigan. And this is going to drive me insane. And I'm 12 minutes into this take. I'm not going to ruin it. But it was the first time that we actually had a competitive playoff. I don't really want to throw that away. I really love the idea of it was Clemson and Ohio State. It was Ohio State and Georgia, and it like came down to that field goal that was like at. It was Michigan TCU, obviously. Yeah, there we go. Okay, boom. And those were shootouts. Those were two shootouts. I'm taking Michigan and Washington and Texas and Alabama 10 times out of 10. Michigan versus Alabama, that's an incredible game. That's an incredible game. Texas and Washington? I have no idea. Is that like a 37-33 kind of a game? Is it that close? Those are two weird teams. Those are two really weird teams. And I'm not even, by the way, getting into my whole spiel about like how deluded I am that I still am almost positive that Oregon is better than Washington. They lost to them twice this year. And I'm still like, but if they played one more time, and I can't even be like, well, what if they just gave them one more game on neutral field? I mean, well, they just smoked that, didn't they? If only they played this game in Autzen, right? If only this game was in Eugene, I think the Ducks would have been able to pull this off. I think the biggest load of bullshit from that Pac-12 championship game, which, by the way, RIP to the Pac-12, rest in peace. You were a great conference. You sent us off. The riding into the sunset was beautiful, right? They kind of just did like that. What's that Lonely Island song? Cool Guys Don't Look at Explosions. That's what they did. They just kind of like walked off into the sunset with a big explosion behind them. It was an awesome game. But the biggest load of bullshit was that the two times that those two teams play this year, Washington gets to wear the home uniforms both times. The first game, that makes sense. They're in Seattle. That makes sense. But in Vegas, we can't get the highlighter Ducks? You know what I mean? What the hell? I'm excited, though. And I won't get into the specifics of these games. We can wait and maybe do a little preview in a few weeks here. I will say congratulations to Jaden Daniels for winning the Heisman. Like, kudos to you, bro. I just think, even though I think my take was whoever wins the Pac-12 is going to win the Heisman, that take just fell off in previous weeks because for whatever reason, and now we can look at it and say, well, Washington is clearly the better team. Washington is the best team in the Pac-12. They just are. Now you kind of look back on it, and even though we kind of like to make fun of Michael Penix on this show as much as we like him, it's like he was sick for like a game or two and then played a few bad weather games, and I guess that's all that it was. Although, what the hell happened in the Arizona State game? Was that one that he was sick for? I don't remember. That game was still weird. I stand by that being weird. But, hey, good teams have weird games sometimes. It just happens, right? I think the committee did the right thing, and I'm excited for the playoff. It sucks, but I'm excited. We got one more college football thing coming up. I don't know if there's anything that I love doing more than, like, delivering a boomer take that I really, really mean. Like, something that is so lame that everybody is kind of in consensus of the opposite on. And it's not for the sake of, like, being a contrarian, because that would just make me seem like a douche. It's not about that. But I love when my brain is like, nuh-uh, nope, I don't like this change. Society is wrong. The transfer portal kind of sucks, man. Like, here's the good thing about the transfer portal. One, it allows kids to go somewhere where they could receive a more lucrative opportunity. That is technically a good thing, but also, which we'll talk about in a minute, also contributes to the problem. But in principle, I guess is a good thing because we spent decades and decades of this like predatory organization in the NCAA profiting off of these kids, while if they got a hamburger paid for them, they were like fucking crucified. It's wild that like growing up, like when I was a kid and you would hear about like Reggie Bush or like even Johnny Manziel, right? When Johnny football was a thing, you know, I was like in my formative years, I'm like a 13, 14-year-old kid. So this guy is like on top of the world to me. You know, as somebody who was playing football in high school at the time, it was like everybody wanted to be this dude. And then it's like indoctrinated in you that if they get paid, they are a criminal. Like they are doing something horrific and they should be like in prison they should do 10 years. You know what I mean? It's wild that that's how we were wired to think about this, you know, because you look at it now and it's like, obviously these kids should make as much as they possibly can, you know, bleed these donors dry, if you will. But I'm bringing this up to say, interesting graphic I saw. Over 400 more players entered the transfer portal on the first day compared to last year. This year, there was 1,184 players. A year ago, it was 775. And I want to talk a little bit about some of those players because I'm a little bit confused about some of them. And I think it sucks in a lot of ways, man, because, you know, another good thing about the portal that I meant to mention is it's a really easy way to sort of dig yourself out of a hole. If you're a program like Michigan State and you just hired Jonathan Smith off of the heels of firing the sex pest that was Mel Tucker, well, what comes with that is you're going to lose a lot of guys. You lost Caden Hauser. That one doesn't feel good. That one hurt a lot. I thought he was going to be our quarterback forever. But writing was also kind of on the wall that once Mel got fired, like, yeah, everyone's going to leave. And that's just, hey, these kids didn't sign up for a different coach. They signed up for Mel Tucker. You know what I mean? Some of them even signed up for Mark D'Antonio when they ended up with Mel Tucker, but I digress. And one of the reasons why Michigan State was able to do so well in Mel Tucker's first, like, official year, the non-COVID year, his first real year, was because of the transfer portal, because they went and got Kenneth Walker, right, from Wake Forest. And so now I anticipate that Michigan State is kind of actually going to be on an upswing next year because he's going to bring guys in. Is that going to be, you know, DJ Uyunglele? I don't know. But he is in the transfer portal. Let's talk about some of these quarterbacks that are in the transfer portal right now. Cameron Ward from Washington State, in a conference that honestly it had the best quarterback play in America, top to bottom. You know, if Cam Rising was playing, he would have been in there too. But even as it were, like, Bucky Barnes wasn't bad. Nate Johnson wasn't bad. It's wild that I'm leading with them when we have like Bo Nix and Michael Penix and Caleb Williams and Cameron Ward. DJ Uiagalelei, like we just talked about. Like, it was a great conference for quarterbacks. Cameron Ward in the transfer portal. We also have Will Howard from Kansas State. Riley Leonard from Duke. For those of you who don't remember, Riley Leonard was the one who they beat Clemson in like week 1 or week 2. And then immediately after the game, he like says on TV, he's like, hey, professor, whatever, I'm going to be late turning in my assignment. Like, do you think I can get like an exception? And then the teacher zinged back and was like, no, because your teammates turned the assignment in on time. What, you think you're the quarterback? You think because you're the quarterback, you're fucking special? Shit ain't sweet, son. Turn that assignment in. Late. Stamped. Dante Moore from UCLA talking to Michigan. Get out of the portal. Please don't go to Michigan. Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. That one, this is what I want to fucking talk about. Dylan Gabriel, a guy who only convinced me in one game this year, and that was the game against Texas, that he might be good, that he might be kind of sweet because he played a really solid game, right? My question is this. Well, let me say this before I ask the question. He also did a really solid job of helping navigate Oklahoma through what was, I guess, considered like a transitional year, you know, where they weren't really expecting that they were going to be on top of the world or like in the college football playoff, but Oklahoma stayed in the mix. They hung on for a lot longer than I think a lot of us thought that they would. And a lot of that had to do with Dylan Gabriel. My question now becomes, with the 12-team playoff coming a year from now, is transferring out of Oklahoma really the move? And you're going to say, well, yeah, because they're going to the SEC. They're going to get fucked. Okay. Well, the playoff right now, if we're pretending that the conference, the teams that are in the playoff right now are in their future conferences, there are 2 Big Ten teams and there are 2 SEC teams, Michigan and Washington and Texas and Alabama. Well, there are 12 teams. So it just feels weird when you're leaving one of these schools where it's like, if you stay one more year and have essentially the same season, but you don't lose one dumb game, there's a real chance you're in. So that's weird. That one's bizarre to me. Will Rogers from Mississippi State. We got Tyler Van Dyke from Miami. Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord in the transfer portal. Weird. Isn't that weird? Isn't that funny how that works? Kyle McCord in the transfer portal? What? Ohio State's quarterback? Did things not go well? I thought he was a quarterback. I thought he was like a real college football quarterback. What the hell happened? He stinks, is what happens. I can't necessarily say that I'm shocked. And if he ends up at some like Miami of Ohio, right? That's going to be the funniest thing in the world. The reality here, does he go to like Oklahoma? No, he can't go to Oklahoma. He can't run what they run down there. If he can't throw the ball at Ohio State, he damn sure can't throw the ball at Oklahoma. Fuck around and end up at Northern Illinois. Take the Rocky Lombardi route, Kyle McCord. That one's crazy to me. But it's also not, because we loved to say on this show that he's like literally not a college quarterback. I would have said the same thing, by the way, about Drew Aller this year. He just wasn't, but he was raw, and that's the difference. I mean, Kyle McCord was too, but he also just stinks. Drew Aller, I don't think stinks. He was just like, he just needs a year of like getting the shit kicked out of him. And like actually maybe talk to his receivers. Like, does he know the names of his receivers on some Josh Dobbs shit? DJ Uiagalelei, also in the portal. I don't understand how he can even do this. He just transferred. My biggest issue right now is that between the NIL and the transfer portal, it's the Wild West, dude. It's literally do you know the rules? Because I promise you, if you try to go to the comments right now and type up a little like, well, so this is why this thing and this thing, I'm going to be able to look up an article and find and contradict you and tell you why you're wrong. I'll like look in the fucking student guideline handbook, whatever bullshit that is, and I'll be like, look at rule B8. It actually says this. So what the fuck? I don't know who's allowed to do what. I don't know who's allowed to go where. I don't know who's allowed to be eligible. This is a kid who's playing college basketball for Howard this year, who just a couple of weeks ago got granted his 8th year. What? He's gotten 2 degrees. in that time. He's played for Ohio State, somebody else, and now Howard. And how he did it was like he had he played his freshman year and then had like 3 straight years of like smoking his knee and like then his Achilles. He just had injury after injury. And then the COVID year, which was basically a free year for everybody. If you didn't want to play, it did not count against your eligibility. And then like whatever, boom, 8th year. Huh? So I'm saying all this about DJ just to say like, boy, was he fun to watch this year. I'm really excited to see where he goes. I saw Dylan Gabriel's talking to Oregon. Please, no. Please don't do it. And I don't know, though, because as somebody who hated Bo Nix when he was at Auburn, like passionately, when he transferred, well, that's the key difference, is when he transferred, I saw the vision immediately. And I was like, that is going to work. That makes complete sense. But with Dylan Gabriel, I'm not on board with it. With DJ, maybe. I want DJ to come to Michigan State, honestly. I don't give a shit if it's for 1 year. But the good news is their other quarterback, their freshman quarterback, his last name is Childs. I'm blanking on his first name. It's blanking on everything today, I guess. Jeez. Also probably going to come to Michigan State. I think he was a 4-star. So if we get either of them, I'm cool with that. Jonathan Smith, please work your magic there. So what was this segment for? What was I going for here? I would just love for this shit to get regulated, I guess. I honestly can't believe I'm advocating for that. Because as somebody who loves anarchy, somebody who loves, like, chaos, I think it sometimes just makes college football feel like it's the minor leagues for the NFL. And that shit's not fun. Like, maybe I'm going to sound corny, dude, but I love the story of the 3-year starter. The 4-year starter is gone. That's been gone for like 10 years. I would maybe even 12, 15 years. The 4-year starter, that has almost never existed. Well, 4 years, yeah, that's crazy. But a 3-year starter is what I should say has kind of been gone for like 10, 15 years. That just doesn't exist anymore. If you can get a guy to start at quarterback for you for 2 years, good. Good, you did it. But now, for whatever reason, through virtue of money or through, like, coaches being sex pests and getting fired and being shitheads, like, these kids are just jumping around. It only bothers me when it's for a bag. That's when it gets annoying, right? And it shouldn't annoy me as much as it does, because these are kids trying to put themselves in the best situations, not just for themselves, but to provide for their families, especially the ones who probably aren't going to the NFL. And if they do, they'll just be like on a practice squad. And like, yeah, you actually sneaky make good money on a practice squad. But you know what I mean? Like, these guys want to capitalize on the opportunity that they have right now. But what comes with that is turnover that is almost unfathomable, because it is. I mean, it's unprecedented. We've never seen it at levels that we're seeing it in college football in 2023. The player movement. We've just never seen it. In some fucked up way, could I blame this on Kevin Durant? I'm kind of being serious, dude. I was at the grocery store yesterday, and like my girlfriend, she's like walking around, she's like doing stuff. I'm just like pushing the cart. And I'm in my head thinking, like, all the kids that are in college right now were what? Like 10, 11 when Kevin Durant went to Golden State? That's like the average age of an NBACircleJerk user anyways, right? So these kids are impressionable, and they see this like player movement and like LeBron doing shit and all these players jumping ship and going to these different places, and they're like, if I could only do that someday. And then bam, suddenly the opportunity arises, right? And I'm saying all this just like, I don't actually, hey, Kevin Durant, I actually liked the move at the time when he went to Golden State, because again, I love the chaos. And I also love a dynasty. And obviously when that happened, we were like, here we go, right? So that's got to be the worst thing about me, is how easy it is for me to root for a team like Alabama just because I love greatness. Because I love a success story. I love living through history. And when I watch a team rattle off 3 and 5 years, I love that. That, I feel like, becomes a lot harder to do now, because of all the movement. I say that Georgia just won 2 in a row. all they have to do is win like another one, and then it'll be 3 in 4 years, 3 in 5. It's not impossible for them to do that, right? We'll see. Let's talk about some basketball. We're about to do some basketball, but I have to point this out. So I woke up and I kind of trimmed my beard a little bit. This is driving me insane. I can't fix this at all right now, and it's like driving me crazy how stupid it looks. Anyways, I get a lot of emails about the Miami Heat. I don't know why, honestly, because if there's anything that's been consistent about me on this channel, like we're about to make history. We're about to talk about Miami. So like put your seatbelts on, okay? It might only be like a tight 5 to 7 because I hold so much vitriol, truly, and disdain in my heart for this organization. And when you hear this email, you're going to be like, oh, this is funny timing. Yeah, this is why. I don't know what happened, dude. I go on vacation. I checked the email for the first time in a couple days last night to kind of get an idea of what I was going to talk about on today's show. Fucking like 6 emails about Miami. What's going on? Like, why do you guys want to talk about them so bad? Let's do it, though, because we have an email here from Philip. And Philip wants to know, well, why don't I just read the email? Hey, Nicholas, I've been following your work for a while, and I'm glad to see you're doing your thing with the new pod. What I wanted to email you about is why the Miami Heat team is so blatantly disrespected by TV personalities as well as people who cover the league on YouTube. The team was 1 3-point shot away from being in 3 of the last 4 finals, but more importantly, everyone wants to have conversations like, is this the year Jason Tatum steps up and wins a chip? And last year, nobody would shut up about how Jalen Brunson was this enormous game changer for the Knicks, but nobody talks about how the Heat have the best chemistry in the league, despite maybe Denver, and that the Heat are more than just a culture. Jimmy is the 3rd best team leader in the NBA, only behind Steph and LeBron. No, he's not. But let's unpack the rest of the email, Philip, because you bring up a really interesting question. And if at any point, I'm saying this specifically to you, Philip, not to any other Heat fans. Philip, if at any point I sound a little bit rude or disrespectful, it's not targeted at you. Okay? Great. If we talk about like what Heat culture is, because I think that honestly is kind of a fun mental exercise for me, is just asking random people, like, what do you think it is? Because I don't honestly know if there's a right or a wrong answer, because I honestly would argue that Miami doesn't even know all the time. But like, it's about knowing who you are, right? It's a team that does not doubt themselves. There are no role players because everybody plays a different role. And if you're watching this, if you're not watching the video version of this, I am air quoting very hard that there are no role players. Because on any given night, different dudes on that team are going to have to do like different shit, right? It's all circumstantial. It's all about what the situation calls for. Accountability is a really big thing with this organization. They approach every single challenge, every single obstacle with a grin. You know, like, we welcome that shit. That's what we want. It's grit, man. Like, that's really what it is. I think the funniest thing about Miami is how impossibly bad they are at luring free agents or putting together trade packages that fucking anybody would be interested in. And you want to know why I think it's hard for them to put together trade packages that anybody would be interested in? Because a year ago, by the end of the season, they had played 12 guys that were undrafted throughout the season, 12 of them. And that's what's so funny, is it's like, if I'm Pat Riley, I haven't been able to lure like anybody here outside of like, I don't know, Jimmy, which that wasn't hard because that marriage was just always going to happen, right? Like he, you know, it takes a very specific kind of guy to want to fit in with that culture, you know what I mean? And Jimmy just always, as the agitator of the NBA, has always kind of been in that mold, you know? And then what's the other one? Like Kyle Lowry, and what has that experience been? It varies on who you ask. So it becomes really difficult to fucking whatever. But it's funny that because they can't go get the guys that everybody wants, the Damian Lillards of the world, the Giannis's of the world, they can't get those guys. They just can't. For one reason or another, they just never get those guys anymore, right? I'm very aware about the big 3. I'm not talking about that, right? It's fucking a decade ago at this point. Can you believe that? A decade since the big 3. So instead, they get the guys that literally nobody wanted. They go to the pool of undrafted guys, and they say, who can we turn into like a guy, a capital G guy? Who can we turn into a guy that's going to get a $90 million contract? That's like the fucking game that Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley like to play. You want to know what else is like a part of Heat culture, I guess, is Pat Riley locking free agents in a room and just like putting all of his rings on the table and being like, what do you think about this, fucker? You want this? You want a little bit of this? You want a taste of this? You can't leave this room until you sign this piece of paper, you fuck. Huh? That's always been crazy to me. You want to know, man, like why people don't like the team? You want to know like why people get rubbed the wrong way? It's because when your whole deal is that you work harder than everybody else, that the practices are harder than the games, so that way when you get to the actual game, it's like whatever. It's fucking annoying, is what it is. And at the risk of sounding like a hater, which by the way, I am. When your leader, to your point, is Jimmy Butler. And I would argue, I mean, it's semantics if to your point, he's not top 3. Okay, I'd put him at like 5. So like, who cares, right? What are we talking about? But when that guy, when his whole bit is just pissing as many people off as he possibly can, in some way, do I feel like he's infringing on my territory? Not really, because that's not really my gimmick anymore, at least. It's annoying. But everywhere he's gone, it's so clear that he has this predilection for stirring shit up. That's just what he does, right? When he was in Chicago, how did that end? Go look that up. How did that end? Wasn't pretty. You really want me to do another 5 minutes on what happened in Minnesota? Probably not, because we're fucking beat over the head with it. We're beat over the head with like this alpha dog mentality that he brings to the table. I fucking get it. He doesn't want to play with bad players. Find me a guy who does, right? It's annoying. It gets old. It's a tired shtick. Even if they win games, which, by the way, what's funny is they don't. Like, they don't until it matters. And then the Heat are going to win a bunch of games. Like, when they lose in the play-in and then still end up in the playoffs and then they fucking, like, go to the finals. Like, they fuck around and in the regular season for 8 months, they're like, none of this matters. And then May rolls around and they turn into the Big Three Heat. It's crazy. It's really annoying. And then he goes to Philly, and we're all kind of like, whoa, is this going to work? He puts on the ninja headband. You want to know something about the ninja headbands? Have I delivered this take yet before? You guys don't miss those. You don't. You're going to say you do in the comments. You know why you miss them is because you can't have them. That's why. If you could, and dudes could still wear them, yeah, I agree. They look cool. Like, I agree they look cool. I don't give a shit. I don't care. And I'm a guy who cares about on-court fashion. I care about that shit so much. By the way, how about Asar Thompson wearing the mask? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. He looks so cool. He looks so cool. Would also be a funny way to be able to identify the difference between him and his brother. Is one of them, okay, so it's Asar that wears the masks. But he's not going to fucking like be wearing it in public. What am I even talking about? Let's get back to the subject here. Why do people hate the Heat so much? Because Heat fans don't know how to be the villain. Like, everybody in retrospect loves the idea of playing the heel and being like that WWE villain until it's actually you. Until you're the one that's out there being the agitator and stirring shit up and being annoying and talking a bunch of shit, again, even when you're winning a bunch of games. And then it's like you are just so protective of your own team that you take it, you're so defensive of it. I think, honestly, what would make the Heat more likable is if their fans would just embrace it. If their fans would just embrace that everybody fucking hates you. Everybody does. They do. Because you guys are assholes. You know why you guys are assholes? Because you have history. Because you have culture. Because you win games that matter. Because you have players that can play in big moments and those players talk a lot of shit. It's crazy that it's a team that can have as much ego as it does while also having none at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, you watch these Heat teams and how unselfish they are, but the second that they get that opportunity to remind you of how fucking different they are, they will do it. They will talk about that. What's that bullshit that they printed on the court on this on their it's on their like in-season tournament court, right? Or is it on their City Edition court? Whatever one it is, where it's like whatever that they printed. Maybe I'll put up a graphic of it on the screen. Dumb. Oh, tomato, corny, boo. But that's the identity, right? Talk about the Heat being like a WWE villain, like the heel. Jimmy Butler transcends that, dude. Jimmy Butler is a Bond villain. The shit that he does at Media Day, like, he terrorizes people. There has only been one time, honestly, in my life that I was like, that shit was so cool that Jimmy Butler did. And it was the game in the finals where he put up, what was it, like 50 in the bubble. And the meme where he's like hunched over. The bubble finals. Like, that game was like I tip my cap, dude. You literally did everything that you possibly could. And then he just went back to being annoying. The final sentiment that I have for you here, Heat fans. Just let it pile on. Stop questioning why people hate Heat culture so much. Stop questioning why people hate your basketball team so much. Because you don't have anything to worry about. Because you're going to win games. You're going to win games. In a previous episode of this broadcast, we did like a kind of like a general NBA segment where I kind of just bounced around from topic to topic and some different players and some different games that I had been watching and just kind of giving some like random notes off the dome. That was received better than I was expecting it to be for a segment that was not very coherent. I've learned that a lot of you guys are like, we miss the ADHD content. I don't. I love being more focused. Right? But for the sake of it, because there's kind of a few things here that I want to get into, and rather just stretching it all into like 10-minute segments, why don't we just kind of bounce around the league a little bit? How about this in-season tournament? How much fun are we having with that? How big do these games feel in late November and early December? Right? At the beginning of the season, you have like this Pacers-Kings game. You have this, which by the way, I have to deliver a gripe, I guess, to like the NBA for pumping all these graphics that Tyrese Halliburton recorded his first career triple-double. I reread it 6 times. And the reason that I have this gripe is because they forced me to go through like 3 years of game logs being like, that's not true. It's literally not true. Of course he's had a triple-double before. How? The fuck? Did he not have one before? Did we all collectively have that same reaction where we're like if you were in a room of like 50 NBA fans and all of them are like, yeah, like I'm a step above a casual fan. Like I watch the games and I know what's going on in the league. And you just did a random poll. How many triple doubles does Tyrese Halliburton have? I would have been like 5, 6 maybe. Like he's gotten a handful of them. I feel like most people would have said that because of how much shit that he does and the way that he's able to elevate an offense. We're seeing it with the Pacers this year. We did a segment on them like a week or two ago. I don't know how close we can get to like NBA teams figuring out how to play basketball. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it. But if there was a way to quantify if a team has gotten there yet, I would say that Rick Carlisle did it. I would say that Rick Carlisle getting his hands on Tyrese Halliburton was probably the most devious thing that probably could have happened to the NBA. Didn't Mark Cuban say on the Pat Bev podcast, he was like, we wanted Halliburton so bad and we wanted to trade up for him so bad, but we just couldn't. And then Rick Carlisle leaves and he gets to Indiana. What's the first thing they do? What was the first thing that Rick Carlisle got to do? He got Tyrese Halliburton. Come on, man. Mark Cuban had to have been sick to his stomach because he's so fun to watch. And how he's been this year, dude, it can't be crazy. It cannot be out of the question to be talking about this guy in the MVP ladder in early December. It just can't, because when he puts up this triple-double, and he had a couple weeks ago like a 36 and like 16 game. I think he even had like a 40 and 16 game. He has this move where he's like he'll be like dribbling above the break. And then as soon as, because I don't know how you guys watch basketball, but like, I don't know if it, and I'm asking this very genuinely, like when I watch hockey, for example, if there's a shot on net, right? I look towards the back of the net and the fans behind the goal because they will tell me that there's a goal before anybody else, right? When I'm watching basketball, I'm not always watching the guy who has the ball in his hand. I'm usually watching what's going on around him and like the action that's being run. That's just me. Even though I don't always understand it, I just love the way that these guys are able to move and like create space. So that's what I like to look for. And it's fucking annoying when I watch the Pacers and I'm watching Tyrese Halliburton because he'll bring the ball up the floor. And like I said, he'll be above the break. He'll be taking like 2 or 3 dribbles. And then like suddenly the shot is just up. And I don't know if it's because his release point is not only as weird as it is, but or just his mechanics are as weird as they are, but his release point is so low that he's like, it looks like he's able to get the shot off a little bit quicker or whatever, and it rips the net. Before you even realize that he took the fucking shot, it's in, and he's going back down to the other end of the floor, just like doing that thing where he's shaking his head like, you literally can't fucking stop me. Like I'm on a rocket right now. I'm going to the fucking moon. It's like, how close are we to being like Tyrese? And I am going full overreaction right now. Because I'm so in on this Tyrese Halliburton thing. And I think part of it is because we've gotten to, he's so open with the media. You talk about, even if you want to use just JJ Redick's podcast as an example, seeing the human side of Tyrese Halliburton and seeing how just awesome, genuinely awesome of a guy that he is, that makes him so much easier to root for, right? We talk about Jimmy Butler in the last segment and how for a lot of people, it's going to rub you the wrong way, such as life, when somebody's an asshole, when that's just like your whole deal. But for some people, they gravitate towards that, right? Doesn't it feel a lot better to be rooting for a guy that you're like, he's just awesome? And is Jimmy Butler maybe a nice guy, like in real life, if you get to meet him? I don't know. I honestly don't care. I don't care. But I do want to meet a guy like Tyrese Halliburton more than I want to meet a guy like Jimmy Butler, right? What's something else that's going on? Did get a few like emails and comments on previous videos about like, hey man, like where's Knicks Pistons? Are you going to be doing Knicks Pistons anytime soon? And for those of you who are new to the show, that is where I put the Pistons in like a tier list and I let you know like where they are in my heart. And the most recent iteration of that is that none of them are in the NBA. They are in the bottom tier, which is not in the NBA, and that's where they are all going to stay until this team wins a fucking game. So that's when you can expect the next edition of Knicks Pistons is when they actually win a game, which as of this recording, tonight, they're playing Memphis. So there's a chance that by Monday's episode, we will be doing Knicks Pistons, but honestly, I won't be surprised if we don't. Can I zag really hard about the Pistons? Can I give you guys a take that I haven't seen yet? I don't even know if I believe this. I certainly don't believe it today. I do not believe this today. But if we want to get weird down the road, it's been a while since a coach has gotten traded. It's been a long time since we've seen a coach get traded in the NBA. And what's weird is I was actually thinking about this on the plane going down to Puerto Rico. I was like, what if we traded Monty Williams? What if there was a team out there who like had a real roster, like an actual roster that like wasn't kids, and they were like just a coach away, right? And I was trying to think about who that would be, but it's honestly not important here because this isn't going to happen. But I was like, what if they were just like, we want Monty Williams, and then we just got, we went and got like, I don't know, does Troy still want Kevin Ollie? Go get Kevin Ollie or something if you really, really want to. I don't know. I think that'd be hilarious. You know what else I saw? I'm trying to enjoy my vacation, and we're in a really, really nice restaurant, but they have League Pass up on the TV. And I was like, really? I was like, okay. I was like, all right, Puerto Rico, let's watch some fucking League Pass. Was it like Minnesota, Indiana? I don't even remember who it was, right? I was drunk. I don't remember who it was. But I see on the bottom line, on the little ticker on the bottom of the screen, that Ben Simmons is going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks because he got like an epidural injection in his spine. My brain immediately goes to, so the Nets finally snapped Brooklyn finally snapped and said, if this fucker's not going to play, we're going to paralyze his ass, and he can sit on the bench for as long as he wants. Shoot some shit into his spine. That'll fucking show him. If you don't want to play, you can sit for as long as you want, fucker. Epidural in his back. Are we at a point in modern medicine where a back injury is more terrifying than a knee injury or like an Achilles injury? Because a knee injury is like, what's the timetable on that in 2023? 8 months? 8 months if you really get after it. I don't know. For some, like Hendon Hooker, it's taken him a little bit longer, but he's not really in a rush. If you're in a rush, the timeline is like, you're fucking in and out of there, right? Go to Germany, they inject some weird HGH shit into you, and you're going to be fine. What's the recent history on Achilles tears? Apparently, you just fucking take a bunch of ayahuasca, and 3 months later, you're like practicing again, and you're considering quarterbacking for the Jets? Okay. What happens when you have a back injury? You're Ben Simmons, I guess, and you just never play games, ever. He actually kind of played for the Nets last year, but what I don't understand, I don't get this, even when I watch the games. Nets fans, like, chime in. Let me know. Why doesn't he get to the line anymore? Because in Philly, it was like, all right, if you don't want to shoot, you don't want to, like, if you, whatever. But he was still getting to the line. I mean, he had games where he was shooting 14 attempts. You know what I mean? It was few and far between, but it happened. And at the very least, he was consistently getting there for, I don't know, 5 a game, whatever the numbers are. You look at his game logs in Brooklyn, bro, he's shooting either none or like 2. So I don't know what's going on there. But it's annoying and it sucks, man. Like, I always hate delivering this take. I actually don't think I've done it into a microphone because I usually like to keep this one private because I just think it's too weird. I don't think I need to really defend myself in the sense of like, look, as somebody who has made a lot of videos on this channel about appreciating players for being for real about their mental health, we've talked about DeMar, we've talked about Kevin Love, and I think the most recent one from like a year ago was about John Wall. Because that shit's real, right? And especially for these professional athletes, when you put them on this pedestal and you put them in front of all these cameras, they are subject to so much scrutiny that it can fuck with them on a level that we as like quote-unquote normal civilians like just wouldn't. I say that like they're fucking government officials. Like, we just wouldn't get it, right? That platform is really hard to quantify when you are just some guy, and most of us are just some guy. So I say that almost showing my credentials, like, hey, I'm in this fight with you guys and for you guys on your behalf. But like weaponizing that shit because things weren't going your way and saying like, oh, well, it's not about, I don't care about the money or about the well, I think you cared a little bit about the money because when the Sixers were threatening to not pay you for sitting out, you got real fucking serious about that pretty quick, right? So it's a little bit about the money. And then you go to Brooklyn and you're like, I feel like playing basketball again. Basketball sounds like my favorite thing in the world. What's the counter argument there? Well, sometimes when you're dealing with shit mentally, you just need like a change of scenery, Some of you at home are like working a job that you fucking hate. And you just think to yourself like, dude, if I could just get a different job, if I could just work with different people under a different employer, like maybe things would be a little bit different. I would feel better. Plausible. It could be. But this journey with him has been such that it's just hard to empathize with the guy because fuck him. If he's not going to play, fuck him. And that's why I say that the Nets were like, just paralyze him, put him on the bench, shoot some shit into his back. Maybe we'll fucking like, all right, whatever, dude. Because I don't know if he's ever going to be healthy again. I don't care. He's kind of just become at this point like the proverbial punching bag of the NBA. I could say whatever joke I wanted and you guys wouldn't care. You know what I mean? You could say, which honestly, the irony there is palpable. The irony there is palpable that I can sit here and be like, this guy is fucking lying about wanting to kill himself. And then also be like, everybody make fun of him. Everybody can say whatever they want about him and there are no consequences. There are no rules. I can see how this one's a little bit weird. You know what I mean? I had a dream the other night. This is actually what I'm about to pivot so hard. This isn't even about Ben Simmons anymore. I had a dream the other night because I was saying I was thinking about trading Monty Williams on the plane down to Puerto Rico. This happened last night. I had a dream that Tari Eason got traded for Flip Saunders. Now, I don't know how many of you know this. Flip Saunders, rest in peace, is dead. He's dead. But if I'm the Rockets and trading for him in 2023 means that I get all of the wins that he got with, the Timberwolves and the Pistons, and then whoever else he coached for, because he was in the league for a while, right? And those wins are now accredited to me. And the I don't like where this joke is going because I have no fucking idea where it's going. I had a dream that Tari Eason got traded for Flip Saunders. Let's wrap up the show. Wrapping up today's broadcast is going to be the debut of a new segment. And, I talk at the beginning about how upset I get when I, miss the boat, I want to do a new segment called Headlines That I Missed While I Was Gone, parenthetically. And these aren't even going to be real headlines from any real publications. This is just shit that I saw on Reddit while we were gone. And I was so crushed that I couldn't do any commentary on it at all. I just had to I was just bombarding my girlfriend with bits the whole time. So I'm going to pass this off to you guys. It's not really necessarily about sports at all. Maybe some of it in some way it will be kind of, but this is just stuff that I saw that I thought was really funny, and I just had some things that I wanted to say. So first up on the menu, r/Chicago. Do people from Chicago pronounce the word asked like asked? Or does my wife just have a speech impediment? This guy is the funniest fucking guy that I have heard from on the internet in a long time. Because I love the idea that he didn't even consult her about posting this. He was just because if he's married to her, I would imagine that they've been together for a considerable amount of time. And it has to boil up to a point where you're I can't fucking stand the way that you enunciate this word. I have to ask the internet if you have a speech impediment. Ask her. Talk to your wife, bro. I don't know. That is the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. On to the next one. This one's just dumb. r/The Big Picture. Do you guys like the ending of Oppenheimer? No, asshole. It's just only been talked about for the last 6 months like it was maybe the most compelling and heart-wrenching final 5 minutes that we've seen in a movie theater in the last 30 years. Fucker. I didn't even give this guy the dignity of opening the thread because I just wanted him banned from the internet. Downvote that shit into the ground, idiot. What do you do? I would love the person who walked out of that theater God, those first 2 hours and 45 minutes were amazing. I was breathtaking, right? But it kind of lost me at the end a little bit when it started to talk about real shit. Dumb. Let's move on to the next one before I say something crazy. From r/Bill Simmons, my true home, honestly. Does anyone else think that Bill sounds a little like what a grown-up Eric Cartman would sound like? Now, while I don't necessarily think that this is a good assessment at all, despite my upvote, mainly just because it was creative and I did a little bit more than a nasal exhale laugh. There was a little bit of throat in it. Pause. You know what I mean? But what I give Bill, the Podfather, credit for is it's really easy to mimic sort of his mannerisms, but not his voice. People can make jokes about Bill and kind of say it in his cadence, but it's really hard to do a Bill Simmons impression. Now, if you wanted to try, doing an Eric Cartman voice, but, adding a little bit of, bass to it, a little bit of timbre to it, but you'd also have to, smoke cigarettes for, 30 years in order to really get that Bill Simmons, richness. You know what I mean? Drink some Starry. He's a big Starry guy, I guess. Whatever psyop bullshit pop that is. Hell no, I'm not drinking it. But that one I thought was really funny. Now, finally, well, I forgot. There is actually another one in here that I wanted to read. 2 more. We got 2 more, folks. So if the wheels have not gotten off the ground off the runway of this segment. Don't worry, there are only 2 more. From r/NFL. The Chicago Bears have had conversations about possibly hiring Jim Harbaugh if they decide to fire Matt Eberflus. Really, it's already that time of year again that we're talking about Jim Harbaugh going to the NFL. By the way, these rumors, they started back in like September. Like, that's how early we were doing this. And then once, all of these sign stealing allegations came out, one of the popular theories was like, oh, is this just the NCAA's way of squeezing Jim Harbaugh out of college football, and this is finally when he goes to the NFL, especially if Michigan wins a natty this year? Like, maybe. I'm here for those theories because it honestly is a compelling one, and I don't think it's inherently wrong. But the phrasing here is really what it does, is really what does it for me. They've had conversations about possibly hiring Jim Harbaugh if they fire Matt Eberflus, if they fire the worst coach in the league, if the Bears do that. And the Bears are historically not a team that does like in-season firings. They just don't. Like, they will wait until the end of the year. How about the fucking Carolina Panthers firing Frank Reich? What a load of horse shit that was. That guy got a raw deal. Like, I'm not saying, by the end of the year, like whatever, but I don't even think he should have been fired after this year. Even if they only ended up winning 1 or 2 games, I don't think he should have been fired. What a crock of shit he got sold. Dumb. Possibly, maybe. This is never news, dude. When you talk about like an organization like may have had a conversation about something that could happen if this thing happens, fuck off. This isn't news. You're annoying. Let's go to the last one, and this is weird. From how do you say this? Fomois? Because the Instagram account is Dumois, right? So this is like Fomois. Angelina Jolie says, I wouldn't be an actress today and plans to leave Los Angeles. Hollywood is not a healthy place. Now, I don't think you guys know this about me, but I have recently actually gone on quite the tirade about Angelina Jolie because I think it's really wild that she is still considered, all due respect to her, but like an A-lister because she doesn't do anything anymore. Like, she doesn't do anything anymore. If I said to you, what was the last thing that she was in that you like really got up for? Most of you are going to say what? Like Salt, Wanted, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Those were 10, 15 years ago. You know what I mean? Mr. and Mrs. Smith, wasn't that like close to 20 years ago? What are you going to say? Maleficent? No. I don't give a shit about that. That doesn't count. What are you going to say? Eternals? You don't even fucking mean that, dude. You don't even mean that. You didn't even like Eternals. She was hardly even in Eternals. Kind of. Yeah, she was kind of in it. Wild that Harry Styles was in that movie. What the fuck? I don't know. I'm pulling it up right now. Kung Fu Panda, was she in that? She was in the 3rd one. She's in the 2nd one. I'm looking at all these, and it's crazy to me how she was in Shark Tale. I'm just looking at this right now. I had no idea. Tomb Raider. Yeah, but she ditched Tomb Raider. She was like, hell no, I'm not doing this ever again. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what, is she coasting off of, like, the whole Brangelina, they adopt a bunch of kids? Is she still doing that? Do they still have all those kids? I would argue, Angelina, that you're not an actress anymore. That you're not an actress today. What the hell? Where have you been? Do something interesting. Do something fun. When was the last time you went to the movie theater like, I gotta check out this new Angelina Jolie movie? Because if you say it was for Maleficent, you were not going for Angelina Jolie. You know what I mean? You were not going to Eternals to see Angelina Jolie. You know what I mean? When I go to see Killers of the Flower Moon, you know who I'm going to see? Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Lily Gladstone, though, oh my God, she was incredible in that movie. When I go to see anything that Florence Pugh is in, it's probably because I'm going to see it for her. You know what I mean? I don't know. A lot of hating in this episode. I gotta maybe do some self-reflection and figure out if this is something innate in me that makes me a hateful person, or if maybe it's some sort of exterior factor. Is this society's fault? It could be. It could be that has made me so jaded. I have a take. Oh, my God. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready to unleash this one. Can we just stop posting dead kids online? I don't think that's that crazy of a take. I understand. I am very well read on the news. I would argue I spend too much time reading the news. I spend too much time watching documentaries about shit that's happening in real time, right? Like war reporters and shit, like real boots on the ground in Gaza, in Ukraine, right? In Bakhmut. Like, I consume this shit. I was watching one last night about how, like, Russia is, like, trying to control the Arctic, and I actually found it really boring and not that interesting at all. They have, like, a nuclear power plant on, like, a boat, and, like, it's, like, an icebreaker. I was like, okay, all right, you guys are killing the planet. I'm not learning anything from this. You guys are shitheads. But the whole, like, we have to post videos and pictures of dead kids in order to get this message across. I don't think it does what you think it's doing. I just don't think it does, man. Because you know what that does is it makes people so jaded to whatever conflict it is. And I understand the principle of it is to show people, quote unquote, what's going on in the world and to show people how real this is, how evil this is, right? But if you tell me, like, 10 kids were, like, they got carpet bombed, right? There was a drone strike, and they, like, that's devastating. That's fucking brutal. But I don't need to see it. You know what I mean? That does not, all that does is just make me think, like, okay, now I'm scared to consume anything if I'm just going to see a bunch of dead kids. There's got to be something journalistically that we can do to make this shit fucking stop. And what you're going to say is, like, yeah, we can stop killing little innocent kids. Agreed. Hard agree there. But goddamn, stop, please. Especially when it's like they just don't. It's one thing if you like NSFW tag it and you blur it out, and it's like the only way that you can see it is if you, under your own volition, click it, and it's like, you know, okay, that's one thing, and that is, I guess, maybe the barrier here, you know, the workaround rather. Like, I guess maybe. But until then, holy smokes, please stop showing this to me. I've already seen too much as somebody who has had unrestricted internet access since he was like 10, okay? It has destroyed my brain and rewired it in ways that, like, Jesus, man, I don't need more of this. Alrighty, folks, we will be back on Monday. We will be back on Monday with another episode of the Coping Hour. I hope you guys had fun in this one. I hope you guys are happy to be back in the show. I gave you guys fastballs today. Honestly, if there was a gun, if there was a speedometer, I was throwing, like, I think a consistent 95 all day. I'm patting myself on the back. I fucking crushed it today. Kind of lost it at the end, though. I was throwing, like, some Ephus pitches at the end. Throwing some slurves. Some junk balls. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this on Spotify, you can rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a like, you can subscribe, you can leave a nice little comment. Nick, those are some nice fastballs you were throwing today. Like, I can play catcher. Wow, that fastball hurt my hands. That fastball was so good it hurt my hands. I don't know. Say something about my fastballs. I don't know. I will catch you guys in the next one.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.